Hey y'all, it's Nancy, the Handy Scandy. Thanks for joining me for another crafty venture. Today I'm crafting with Sassy and Crafty, and we are going to make two cards. This big 5x7, as well as this pair of mini slimlines, and they are, I believe, 3x6, both of them. So we'll be using two different stamp sets, and I'll get into all that in just a minute, but I want to tell you that this little piece that I just cut down for the slim lines, and then this one that I'm trimming for the 5x7, those are both pulls from my gel plate. If you don't follow me over on my channel or you're unfamiliar, I have recently become quite obsessed with the gel plate press, and these were some of my results. So this one I actually did the gel plate pull with this same stencil, but it's in that real pale kind of celadon citrine green, and it's hard to see, so I decided that I wanted some of this physical texture as well, so I'm using the Ranger crackle paste, and I love this stuff, guys. Love it. So that was the stained glass heart stencil, and this is the collecting leaves stencils, two of my very favorite, and I can't get enough of them, to be honest. I really can't. And so I'm using the same crackle paste, just shifting my stencil down a little bit so I can cover the whole panel. And then guys, you really want to clean off your stencils and your tools fast when you're using a paste like this. I'm not one to necessarily clean everything off of my stencils, but that I do. I mean, I pause, I jump and run to the kitchen and just get it rinsed off. Doesn't take but a minute, so it's all good. And then you just set it aside to dry. It takes about an hour-ish. It just depends on your climate and all of those things. So I'm stamping up my images as well as a couple sentiments. And I'm using watercolor paper because I've not watercolored in the longest. So let me say, most of this is sped up like 2 or 3 times. And the coloring I show a little bit, or the painting rather, I show a little bit of it in real time. But I say all the time, I'm no colorist. I'm not a professional. So this is just me doing me, whatever that means. So you saw that I did the heat embossing. And when I'm doing watercolor, I like to do that because I'm not a professional and because it's hard for me to stay in the lines. The wells that the embossing powder creates once it's heated and melted helps for the water and the pigment to stay in place. So here I am. This is in real time. I have just squished out a little bit of ink from my Ranger ink pads. They're the same ones that I created that big background with. I have Dusty Concord, Mowed Lawn, and Peacock Feathers. And so I'm painting up the heart, and I paint up the envelope, and you can see, look how slow. That's how slow. And I go back and forth and back and forth. I add detail, I add dimension, I add shadow, I add highlight, or try. So sometimes I'm putting paint down, sometimes I'm lifting paint up. It just depends on what each particular spot needs in that moment. And so with that being said, because I can't really tell you everything that I did and what my thought process was, I don't know. And I'm a very visual learner, so I'm going to put on some music and we'll just watch the process. It is going to jump from this real time to, I think it's sped up 3 times. After that, I do the kitty's face here in just a minute, and I do that in real time as well. And at that point, I pull out my Arteza watercolor palette because, you know, I mean, you can have a teal, purple, or green kitty. I just didn't want it in this situation on any of these cards. So, yeah. So here I'm about to pull out my watercolor palette. There it is. And I decide I want my kitty kind of that caramely color, and I just use that little plate as my my water bowl or cup, essentially. I just didn't want to go get a cup. So I just sprayed some water out. So here I am. I'm just putting down the paint. Yeah, just spreading it out. And this goes for just a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and let the music play, and I'll pipe back in from time to time if I feel there's some explanation or some kind of something that is needed. And I want to invite you guys, if you've not already liked or subscribed, you can subscribe to the Sassy and Crafty channel. You can also search me out and go subscribe over on my channel. I'd appreciate it. We'd all appreciate a thumbs up and a comment on this video. And here we go. Let's play some music. Okay, so two things I want to say is one, I know the kitty's face looks like a hot mess right now, but keep in mind that watercolors dry back. So where it's really dark, it's going to ultimately become a nice shadow. And the second thing I want to say is allow your spaces to dry before you paint next to them. See Kitty's hands? Well, my heat gun will move in just a second, but see how Kitty's hands are green? Looks like he's got some gangrene going on. It's because I couldn't be patient. And that's why I decided to pull my heat gun out. Because when I tried to paint his hands with that pretty caramely color, then all the green and the teal from the envelope bled onto his hands and vice versa. So I have to go back in again to the envelope and add some more of the green and teal to get that fun ombre gradient look. And you can see the shading on his face. I actually like that a lot, but I can't leave well enough alone. So we'll just watch my process. I do find a way to figure out his face. Once I add too much pigment back into it, I figure out a way to fix it in the end, and I'm happy with it. So let's go back to the music, and I'll chime back in a bit. So we've got a cute tabby going on. I was happy with the stripes, and then I come back and try to add more. That's the extra in me. I gotta learn to leave well enough alone. And because his hands were such a mess, the caramel wasn't covering up that green. And because I add too much to his stripes, I decided to make him a her and make him her a tabby / calico mix. That's how I solve my issues. It's all in the brain, right? Creativity. It can be whatever you want. And these are cartoon kitties, so, you know, they could be purple, teal, and green. You make them how you want to make them. This is just my process and how my card progress. But in the end, I think she's adorable. I guess gender really doesn't matter. I only persist on that because I know calicos are typically female. So there you go. So more and more calico spots coming in, and I think they're fun. Fun. So here I am bringing in my fine liner to fill in some of those details that got covered up with paint, even though I have the embossing powder. I'm still going over my lines, and I am using the Marvi. It's called the Le Pen Permanente. It's an alcohol-based ink from Marvi Uchida. I hope I'm pronouncing Uchida correctly. I think I am. But I'm just going over the details on the kitty that got washed out with the pigment. And then I'm going to fussy cut her out. But not before. I want to add some polka dots some white polka dots to the envelope and to the heart. I keep wanting to call the heart a balloon. It's not. It flew out of the envelope, and that's the love that came with the envelope. So adding the polka dots, I have to press down my pen to prime it. So the tip, once you press it down, the tip goes in, and that allows the paint to seep down into the tip. So I'm not putting as many dots as it looks. It's just that some of them aren't coming out clearly, so I have to go over them more than once. But I do love these pens. I have a set of pink pens. They're Dilutions from Diane Revley and Ranger. So here I'm showing you that when I fussy cut her out, I'm going to lose all of that detail, like the whiskers and the flight path of the heart. All that's going to be gone. But I've stamped it again onto this. This is a thinner piece of paper. It's the Accent Opaque, I believe. And I'm going to emboss it with the stencil, and then I'm going to cut it out in a heart shape. So when you do this, you follow the sandwich directions for your machine. For mine, it has the matte either the stencil or the die, then the paper, then the cutting mat, and then the top plate. And you can see my top plate A is very warped and B is thin, so it did nothing when I ran it through. So you can either use a shim, or for me, I have this thicker plate that I got from Stampin' Up! A couple years ago, and you could see how much thicker it was than my standard plate. So that did the trick. So, ooh, can you see that texture already? Keep in mind that this stencil still had a little bit of pixie spray on it. So let me move my machine out of the way and look at that. So I've got the embossing on the back side and the debossing on the front side. And remember the pixie spray, that's why it's hard to come off. So look at that embossed texture. Isn't that beautiful? And then that's the deboss, and I think it's just as gorgeous. And so I'm going to cut it out. Let me bring my machine back in again. I will tape the die down in place. Sorry I'm off screen, but I want to make sure that I get the bulk of the picture. It's okay if some of it runs off, because again, once I fussy cut out my, let me say, see how I was trying to run that through with that thick plate and there was too much pressure? Guys, know how much pressure your machine can take, because I would have broke my machine if I kept persisting. So I went back to my regular plate, and there it worked fine. So I cut out that heart, I die cut that heart, and I die cut another heart out of the fun foam. So, you know, fun foam is much less expensive and more accessible than the foam tape. So I just decided I would use it in this instance. So now, what I started to say is, when I fussy cut this kitty out, I'm losing all of that detail, because I'm not going to fussy cut around his whiskers. I'm not going to fussy cut around that flight pattern of the heart. Nope, not going to do it. So you can see he stamped down. I've already adhered the heart, and this is my pro tip. If I ever had a pro tip, this is it. So look, you've got that beautiful dimension now. It adds a little bit more to your story. It just adds that physical, that visual interest, and then it still has all the detail. The whiskers are still there, and they're all lined up. The flight path is right there, and it's all lined up. So I think it's just really cute. And then again, it makes it so that you can work smarter and not harder, and you don't have to worry about the tediousness of all the little lines. So you just saw I adhered my panel down, and you can see all that beautiful texture from the leaf stencil and the crackle paste. And now I am putting that down, and here is where I resolve the kind of flatness of this kitty's face. So I've just sprayed out some clean water onto my work surface, not using a bowl, not worrying about it. I don't need much. And I'm just picking up that water with a clean brush, and I'm just kind of, you can see, I'm just kind of smushing it around, and I'm not trying to paint. What I'm trying to do is get the pigment on the kitty wet so that I can then lift it up with this clean towel. And you can see that spot right there. See how much brighter it is than the rest? That's where the details come in. That's where the highlights come in. And, you know, I'm just showing myself grace, as I say frequently, because I don't know what I'm doing. I really don't. I'm figuring it out as I go, as I watch other people teach and train in their videos. And I also learn a lot from mistakes. So I try not to chastise myself for my mistakes. So let me say, the towel that I'm using here is clean because I didn't want to transfer any more pigment. And initially I wasn't going to go over that spot over that eye right there. But then I thought, well, if there's a highlight on the forehead, there's going to be a highlight on the spots too. So I went over the spot, and I'm not mad about it. I do come in off screen and I spread that pigment around just so, you know, it's not blotchy. And then I painted these two up the same way, and you can see that I'm using my colored pencils there just to add some depth. And I really like the way the shadows came out on these guys. They're so stinking sweet, and I'm so glad that I decided to use both sets and make all the cards. Let's just make all the cards. And so I'm using this PVA glue from Honeybee, and then I just glue my little pieces down, my panels. And I love that grunginess. The grunginess that's at the top of both panels on the cards. Love that when I do a gel plate pull. Oh, guys, it's so much fun. And then the two hearts were just cut out with dies from my stash. They're different dies. Each one has a little bit different detail. And these cards, again, I believe they're 3 by 6. The cards themselves are 3 by 6. So I just trimmed the panels down to fit. I didn't look at measurements. I just trimmed, making sure that I kept that beautiful grunge at the top. So I figured out which cards or which heart's going to go on which card, and then I remembered that I neglected to do this on the first card. And all I'm doing is taking this marker. It's an alcohol marker. I don't even know where it came from. Yes, I do. My sister got it in the mail. I'm not sure where it came from there, but she gave it to me, and I've been using it to outline my images. It just finishes them off, because I don't know about y'all, but I'm not a good fussy cutter. I don't mind fussy cutting, but I'm not good at it. So you take that black marker, you go around the edges, and it just cleans it up. And so I've used Sweet Sentiments from the same stamp set, which again, it's called My Kinda Crazy. And one says Besties Forever, the other says I'd step on a Lego for you. And if that's not love and friendship, guys, come on. Oh, they're so cute. I added the little details on their dress with the fine liners. And again, I did all that shading with the colored pencil, which I've never done successfully before. So let me know what you think. I think they came out okay. They might be a little too deep in the color, but I like it. And again, this guy was done all with the watercolor and the inks. And then I did use the fine liner to go around the edges. That's the inside of this card. So essentially it says, thank you for doing the stuff and the things, which I love. That's such a sweet sentiment. And that thank you is from a huge thank you stamp set. So guys, this is Nancy, the Handy Scandy. As always, I thank you for spending some time with me. Remember, I'm here for Sassy and Crafty, so if you would give us a like, subscribe if you're not already members of our little tribes. And this is Nancy, the Handy Scandy. I'll see you next time. I'm out.